discussion by Heidi this morning was wonderful around the role of teams and reteaming, and definitely some learning there. And the fact that all of you are here, we're here talking about these topics, just a commitment to learning as well. And that's a key theme that underlines a lot of what we're doing, right? And we're an auto company, so we like roads. You know, if I think about change, right? You know, the road turns into be a nice metaphor because we love nice straight roads, right? You can see far ahead, right? You can see is there anything on the side of the road. Is there something that's going to block your way? You can look behind you and you see what's happened behind you, right? So the past is usually a good predictor of the future. And we like to go fast, right? So hey, we can go fast like this because we got a straight road. Let's keep going. We're going to meet our commitments. We're going to deliver, and we see exactly what's ahead of us. But we know it doesn't work like that, right? Because sooner or later, you're going to have a curve, right? Okay, what do you do now, right? What's going to be behind that curve? What can't you see? Because in-vehicle technology can only do so much. It is getting better. But what's beyond the curve that you need to prepare for in order to know how to negotiate that? So it's change, right? Something's changed in front of you. And it also means that as you go forward, you can no longer look to the past to see what's happened behind you because it's different. You can't see beyond that curve. And within Ford, we've recognized, this is changing for us, right? We need to look at how do we adapt. We recognize that road is no longer straight for us, right? The Ford story we're telling is much different now than it was just a few years ago, right? A mobility company. Absolutely, vehicles are important to us, right? F-Series production's been in the headlines over the last couple of weeks with our supply disruption. But vehicles are important to us, but it's about mobility. And how do we adapt to those changes? What do those roads look like for us? It's a great picture from one of our European commercials we used where, if you're not careful, you're going to fall off the edge. So we've learned to really adapt. And where we want to go and what we're working on within Ford is how to actually embrace the curves and love driving, right? And embrace the change and the unknown that's in front of us. Know that we're safe. Know that we've got the tools, the equipment, the space to be safe, still move fast, but embrace the change that's ahead of us. Because there's lots of change. If you look at the data, and I'm sure this data is already aged, 9 million miles traveled every minute. And in that minute, we've sold 30 vehicles. Industry sold 30 vehicles, but you look at what's happening in digital. 125,000 taxis, Ubers on the road, right? The whole ride-sharing business. There's a whole generation of young people coming up that don't have an interest to want to get a license, a driver's license. They don't want a car. A car is viewed as a hassle. I remember when I was 16, the morning of my 16th birthday, I think it was a Thursday, first thing we did, I went to school late because I went to the Secretary of State office and took my driving test and got my permit. Then I came home and I drove my car that my parents gave me to school that day, right? I just wanted to drive. So the dynamic's changing. There are new options that provide people with mobility that Ford needs to adapt to, and we are. And there's change taking place across the company that the Ford IT organization needs to support. Data, massive amounts of data we're managing too. So with this mobility and with these services is significant growth in data. Ford is building new data centers. A big part of the reason we're doing that is recognizing the data that's happening within our vehicles. As we move to autonomous vehicles, as we move to electric vehicles, as we move to new engineering tools to make great product and develop new services, the data impact of that is significant. So how do we provide that? And we feel this is so important to us that we are going to invest in data centers to make sure we've got state-of-the-art data centers to manage our compute infrastructure and continue to be fit from an IT perspective. And we're changing how we build product and how we look at software product within Ford. So we talk about our transformation approach. And we are moving from a very traditional software development environment. depending on who you talk to, we've been on an agile journey for 8 to 9 years, right? Some really good work had been done that we recognize that's helped lay some of the groundwork and the foundation, but it's not sufficient and not meeting the needs for what's happening today in the industry. We need to really move toward this, this idea of a customer-centric product company. Not just in terms of the product we offer to our customers, but how we deliver product to our HR business partners, our finance analysts, our product engineers in the organization, our manufacturing teams that build our products in the facilities, and how we enable that across our systems in the enterprise. And we're not at a loss for the number of applications and projects we have. I mean, the count is significant. And we need to think about, is that right? How do we make sure we're delivering that? And with every single thing we build and deliver, are we adding value? So this idea of product and looking at the full life cycle of what we're doing. We took an approach, officially started in January of this year. We started did a lot of the work and thinking about this toward the end of last year, though. And we summarized it in kind of 3 phases: form, shape, and enable. Because we've got, call it 12,000 IT employees within Ford. So it's a pretty big organization across multiple continents, right? Big presence obviously here in Dearborn in the US, big presence in our primary center we have in Chennai, India. And then we've got teams in the UK, Germany, North India, Shanghai. It's a big organization. So how do we help the organization get their head around what we're going to go through from a transformation perspective? That forming phase was very much around, within IT, we need to get out of our silos, right? We were organized around, there's a portfolio team, right? They're the only ones that can go talk to the business partners about what they want to do, right? So cycle planning, funding, this is what they're going to do. We had an app dev team. So once that portfolio person laid out the cycle plan, got the funding approved, they'd hand it off to an app dev team. App dev team would then go figure out how to hire resources, bring on a team, assemble a team, and actually start building software. And then once we built the software, we launch it, then we turn it over to a support team. So we were very much operating in silos within IT. That was great back when we were dealing with different set of problems when that organization first came to be, I'd say late 90s, early 2000, when we kind of created this. Because at that time, the problem was scale, right? How do we scale to support this growth that's happening in the business? The problem we had back then wasn't speed, right? So this is a great, that mindset of, let's organize these silos around functional capability. It's a great way to solve a scale problem, not a great way to solve a speed problem. So forming was deliberately bringing together team members from those different groups and putting them together in what we're calling product teams. And that's just the first step. Because then we take them through, and I'll talk about this in a bit more detail, around this product definition, right? So getting our teams thinking differently about the work they do. This isn't about a project anymore, right? I'm not going to start a project, do a bunch of stuff, and at some point I end the project. It's thinking about the work we do in product, right? The life cycle of a product. When you start thinking about the work in terms of product, you can get to a point where you talk through, who's your customer? Who's the customer of your product? How do they get value from your product? Can you measure it? And then you start to lay that out. You start to look at the value chain. You look at the capabilities you need to deliver the model and deliver those products. We've done a lot of great work within Ford around, from an enterprise architecture perspective, thinking about some kind of mega processes across our company, how we can decompose those into capabilities that we need to deliver to support those. And we're now able to take that work and connect it to our product, right? So we look at products or supporting capabilities. And within doing that, within Shape, it's also looking at the team structure. So I thought Heidi's discussion was great, right, around re-teaming, because that's very much what we're doing. We're changing teams. We've got rules around what teams should look like. I'll say rules, guidelines, but we're watching it. We believe small teams, and we'd rather have a number of small teams than big monolithic teams. So our guidance is teams should be 8 to 12 people. I'll talk about kind of the composition of those teams. We say max 15. If you think you need more than 15 people on a team, there's going to be a discussion, and we're going to talk about, is it really one product? Is it a couple of products? Why do you need so many people? And we're looking at co-location. We're no longer spreading team members across regions. It is very common for us right now in Ford to have a manager in the US that has an employee in the UK who's managing someone in Chennai or in India. It's like, wow. I mean, physics gets in the way, right? Think about time zones. You've got a small window every morning where you can actually get all those people together. So our team composition got a bit out of whack, right? We had teaming going on, and at Ford, right, the joke right now is, the first few hours of the day are probably the most productive because that's, from a time zone perspective, you needed everyone together to do anything. So the idea now is whole teams in region, right? So they're no longer bound to other teams in other regions. So their ability to make decisions, how they work together, how they deliver, is broken free from the physics of the time zones. Once those teams are together, we talk about enable, right? And this is the, make teams awesome. It's a tagline we're using around just to try and instill this idea of let's build really, really great teams. Let's give them the training. Let's invest in our people. Let's help them through coaching, through proactive engagement to make them better. So techniques around pairing, mobbing, process coaches, just getting consistent in the use of the tools and the methods is a big part of getting teams better and making them awesome. We've got teams across the board of different capabilities, and we recognize that, and a model we're using recognizes that, and it's been a big help to us, so I'll talk about that. A couple enablers that we are able to rely on, which has been really good. Culture. So we've been on a journey of looking at our culture within Ford for about 2 years. And what I've shown up on the screen here are 5 culture values that we talk about at all levels of the company within IT. And the work we're doing on culture is also influencing, from a corporate perspective, where the company goes around culture. We're able to rely on these as we go through this transformation because, I don't know about your companies, but in Ford, if I look at a lot of our senior decision makers within the IT organization, they're still learning Agile. The playbook, the rules they used and followed to get to where they're at are different now. They can't continue to use that same playbook in the future, so they're learning. So respect knowledge over hierarchy is a common thing you hear teams say now. And you're seeing leaders adopt this and recognize, I'm a leader, I'm in this significant role, but I need to leverage my team to help me learn. And you're seeing an openness to learning that we haven't seen before. Express yourself is another core value we talk about. It's giving people the courage, and it goes on with solving the problem. Have the courage to speak up and say something. If a leader in a room says something that's not accurate, correct them. So we've given people the safety to speak up and educate the leadership and across the organization. So, yeah, they're on a set of signposts, but I can tell you the work we're doing in Ford, in the IT organization, is living these and telling the stories about that, because if we tell the stories, we see the beliefs, and then this feeds kind of this culture journey we're moving to. And then adaptive planning, right? So when we started this transformation effort, in my role in this is leading the transformation office as we go through this. We declared, we don't have a 120-page document that lays out exactly what we're going to do over the next, 18 months, 2 years. And by the way, I'm not even going to tell you how long it's going to take because we don't know. But we know we have a model. We know how to look at what we're doing, and we're going to get feedback along the way and continue to change. And we've got the senior leadership team, including our CIO, absolutely on board with that, right? Ford comes from a place where we love process, right? Give us a milestone, right? Because we want to be able to measure it. And we've taken that away. We've got some guidance, right? And we're clear on how we measure things, but we're always adapting and looking at feedback from the organization. What do we need to do differently? So this idea of continuous planning and coming back and looking at how to do things different is just core to what we do. And I will talk about a couple core functions that are in here to help. People. And again, just Heidi's talk was so impactful because we do talk about stable teams, right? So part of our PDO journey is this idea of stable teams, but the reality is, right, teams are going to change. As we look at our teaming structures, we are being really diligent about a few key roles. So we've drastically simplified our job families that we have within IT to be a few. So 3 of them are represented here. There's a few others to pick out some other jobs we know we have to do within IT that aren't tied to product development directly, but we've greatly simplified the job family structure. So there's a big focus on product manager, software engineers, and product designers. The software engineers has really identified gaps we have. We've got a number of engineers, different skills, but again, Fort's coming from a world where we did a great job giving teams frameworks, and depending on who you talk to, call it code by numbers, and very simple ways to stay within, so we could leverage a certain type of skill set. And what we're asking our teams now too is we need really good software engineers, full stack engineers, and we've been working toward that to bring on and identify them within the company and make them even better and put them in teams where they can really flourish. Our partnership with Pivotal has been really good at helping us do that. So we've adopted some of their practices to assess and understand engineering capability, and that's been wonderful. And we're seeing, and the best part about it, we're seeing the benefit of having really good engineers in our teams. They're enabled through good product management. Product management's a skill that we believe we're making good progress on. We have people in the company that can really do this. We're just helping to shape them and make sure they understand that role as a product manager. And then we're building designers, right? So this idea of customer centricity, human-centered design, and thinking about putting the user at the center is a core part of what we're doing as well. We're underpinning this with a lot of training. That's what's represented in the lower left there. Our L&D team has been great to work with. We're continuing to leverage them and make sure we got the right tools and the approach to train a global IT organization. So let's talk about kind of the model we're using. And this is really, when we introduced this really freed us up in terms of recognizing, Ford is, we've got a lot of different teams that are working in different ways. So how do we talk about change and kind of satisfy all the different scenarios that are out there? So this model is adopted from Leading Agile, right? So if you know Leading Agile, a great partner of ours we're working with, and they brought this model to us. And like any good consultant, they need a 2x2 matrix. The horizontal is predictable or adaptable. Think about that as how your organization is designed. Is it designed to be predictable? Designed to be adaptable? The vertical is known or disrupted. Think about that as the market that you interact with. Right? Most organizations, most large organization IT functions tend to be designed to be very predictable, and they're working in known things. So Ford IT is coming from a place of milestones, 5-year plans, let's predict what's going to happen. The market environment was regulatory. We knew we had new models launching, so it was fairly known, right? We kind of knew what was happening. What happens then, though, is something weird happens, right? Wow, something different out there. For us, this was the mobility space and kind of our what we ended up doing around Ford Pass, right? How do we connect vehicles to customers? How do we look at the use of mobile phones? And what does this mean to IT? We responded, we delivered, but it was through hero teams. And I know there was a subject during the conference around hero teams. So you put these hero teams together, right? You take a great group of people, put them in a room together, let them have a lot of freedom in terms of how they deliver, and they do. They deliver great solutions, and you may have these teams spring up in your companies as well. They do great work, and then you say, well, let's keep doing that, right? Because it's really fun, we delivered, so let's just build a lean startup function. And Ford did this as well. We said, hey, we're doing this, let's take this thing called Ford Labs, and let's keep doing it. And let's scale it out across the organization. But then you quickly realize you can't do that. Because you've got all these dependencies that for one team or a couple teams work really well. But when you try to scale a lean startup mindset across a large organization, you have dependencies, whether it's HR, finance, purchasing, infrastructure teams, other systems, you name it. You got dependencies that slow you down, that don't allow you to operate this way. And that's what happened to us. I mean, 4 Labs is still very successful and doing great things, but we talk about it's kind of the always being attacked by the white blood cells, right? Because it's different, and things want to pull it back and not let it do what it's doing really, really well, because there's dependencies, and it's just different. So what we've come to is this idea of a Basecamp model, and I'm not going to go through all the details, but it basically allows us to think about, for a product that a team's supporting, what's the capability they need in that team? So think about Basecamp 1 teams. Good functioning teams, maybe that product, releasing it every 3 months, every 6 months, and there you're looking, just let's get predictable, right? Let's understand what's happening, and let's make sure we're predictable so every launch isn't a last-minute fire drill. Basecamp 5 is very much lean startup, right? Where teams are innovating, releasing code every single day based on feedback and based on hypotheses they're testing. And then in between is this kind of a spectrum of capability, whether it's release frequency, how they're writing software, and we've got about 5 different characteristics that we describe the Basecamps around. This model has allowed us across an organization of 12,000 people for every team to see themselves somewhere along that model. For a long time, we dealt with this, everyone was concerned in IT that everyone's going to do the pivotal thing, right? Everyone's going to be like pivotal. That'd be great, but that's really expensive, right? To invest, the investment and pairing and the models needed there, and the value's not there. So if we look at our products, what does a product need? And tie it to a Basecamp capability, and then help coach your teams to get to that Basecamp, is what we're doing now. And we do that through this model. So, this ties back to form, shape, enable. And this process we're using is helping us to identify product. We group similar products that are going to have to change. We group, because there's some dependency or relationship between them, we group them together into an expedition. Our guideline is an expedition should be no bigger than 60 to 70 people in total. So we're taking thin slices of the organization. Because if we try to take on an organization of 1,000 people, just way too big, right? We can't make the progress we need to. So we form these expeditions. They go through an approval step that I'll talk about here in a minute. And then they start to be coached. And they're actively coached to get to the Basecamp level they need to operate at for the product they're working on. So it's kind of the right size for the right type of team, for the right type of product. So we're matching, kind of our investment to get them where they need to be, and they're delivering benefits. We're already seeing just the process of helping our teams through the workshopping to identify products, shaping them into expeditions is yielding a lot of value in terms of teams are now questioning, oh, we're doing a lot of stuff. We probably don't need to do all this extra stuff we've been doing. Let's focus our attention here. So we're already seeing the benefits of the model as we start to kind of look at how would we operate in a more lean way. We're continuing to test this along the way too, and we're iterating this through all the different teams. But every discussion we start with a team is around, who's your customer? So I was with some of my team members yesterday, all day going through this, and every discussion for the different areas, who's your customer? Is it a dealer? Is it an internal user in the customer service division? Who is it? And then teasing out, what's the value? And you could see teams starting to catch themselves by the end of the day of, let's not use our old language. Let's not kind of anchor ourselves in how we used to organize teams and build teams. It's something different now. A couple key functions, and I know it's a dense slide in terms of text, but a couple key functions that we put into place to help this. One is this idea of a transformation office. So this is a team I'm responsible for, and we are working across IT to make sure that we deliver the transformation. What's happened before, our experience with this in the past has been, hey, we have a great idea for a big, re-engineering effort, a change. Let's go off and design it and then give it to the teams to go implement, and we'll be good. And then usually what happens is you get some progress, then you just have to backslide. So this team's function is to absolutely make sure we're delivering the transformation against a set of measures that we've identified and are bringing forward to report on. Because we do want to make sure we make progress. And those measures are very different. They're focused around value, they're focused around skills. They're looking at kind of the health of the portfolio. We still do red, yellow, green scorecard reporting. I'm trying to get rid of that. I'd love to be able to change the language more toward throughput, cycle time. And I believe we'll get there. It's a journey we're on, and we've got the right support for it right now. But the transformation office is there to help make sure we have the coaching capacity in place to support this. So we absolutely believe in a coached model, right? Some teams may be able to help themselves, but we absolutely believe we need to do a coached model. So we're leveraging external consultants to help us, but we also want to build this capability inside of Ford. So we are actively enabling and have an enablement function to make sure that, as we bring in external consultants, can we pair up a Ford employee with them to learn those skills to be a really good coach? Because I've told her, we can't continue to, leverage external consultants forever. We need the skill within our company. And we've got, we're making great progress to that already. It's interesting. One of the biggest skills we find that our Ford coaches have struggled with is subordinating to management. Right, because we put them in positions to tell teams do things different, and that courage to be able to be a good, effective coach and change habits and drive for different results and suggest change, is a key skill that our coaches bring, and we want to make sure that those skills are there and we don't subordinate. So it's a key thing we're watching for. It's pretty interesting. And like I said, we're measuring kind of overall effectiveness. And then this transformation council. This is our CIO and his leaders every Friday. And the meeting's evolved, but it's currently 3 hours. They've given us 3 hours of their time every week to talk about where we're at in the transformation, where our team's at, what are the issues we're having. We bring in issues around finance and funding. We bring in issues around HR and job families. We bring in issues around compensation, looking at our comp structure and are we competitive. So, we've got a forum, and it's actually been quite amazing because the feedback, one of the directors gave me some feedback a few weeks ago. He said, Aaron, I attend a lot of meetings every week, but that meeting I get energy from. It doesn't take energy away from me like most do. It actually gives some energy. And that says a lot because they're actively engaged in discussion. And what I like about it is I see their collective knowledge increasing every week. So every Friday we meet, the questions are getting better. They're testing each other now. So it's no longer, me driving the topics and the discussion or my team. They're starting to poke holes in, like, hey, well, what about this arrangement? What if we did this? What if we did that? So the collective learning, and my joke is, it's actually not a joke, but so we told them, we've got our own chart of all the directors, right? So an axis. PDO advocacy and PDO knowledge. And we've kind of plotted them all out, and we're watching how do they move, right? Are they getting knowledgeable, and can they actually be an advocate now? We're in the space with some of them right now where they know the nomenclature and the words and they can say it, but they've memorized it, right? So we're trying to get them to really understand it, right? Demonstrate, your knowledge and apply it to different settings. They're still learning to do. But we actually use that time with them. We do roll in a learning topic for them. So we're actively teaching them as well. So last week we did a high-performing team exercise with this group to help them understand, how does a high-performing team think? What are some of the things you should think about? And actually get them doing the training that we want our employees to do. At the end of the day, our measure of success is we're doing the right things. We're doing those things right. So it's a key kind of message and mantra we have within the group. It's interesting because we've got we do so many projects. We're actually trying to kind of whittle the project list down, the count down. So this intense focus on let's do the right things, and then look at the quantity, and absolutely make sure the quality is where it needs to be. So it's a good, I don't want to say mantra, but it resonates with our team as we go forward, because we often find ourselves in this trap of we're doing just lots of stuff, and the quality could be better. So fewer things, higher quality. Final thoughts. Again, I won't read every one of these to you. I mean, there's something about respecting and acknowledging where we've come from. We've done a lot of good work around Agile, a lot of great efforts. We're building on those, and they gave us a head start. They weren't adequate as initially because we didn't have the discipline, but they're absolutely helping us now, and there's a lot of things that we do not have to create because of the work we did. So that journey early on, and all the team members that contributed were good. And it's not just about adopting Agile techniques, or we talk about Agile theater a lot, right? Teams they're doing a stand-up. Well, you're not really Agile, right? Are you doing, it's about change. Are you fundamentally changing how you're operating? Dependencies. We have so many dependencies across our teams right now. Just breaking those down through our process is going to be a key enabler for us, right? You can only move as fast as that slowest link in the chain. So understanding where those dependencies are, figuring out how to decouple those and encapsulate those within a team is a focus of ours. We talked about capabilities and how we focus on that. And then, cultivate a learning culture. So, I tell teams, right, you're empowered to learn. We actually give employees every week, we schedule on their calendar 4 hours, we call it power up time. 4 hours every week, we expect teams to learn, innovate, do something, but we hold that time on their calendar globally for them to do that. So we continue to go back to 16 hours a month. You should have no excuse why you can't spend time to improve yourself, to improve your skills, to work with a team. So we're seeing more and more that happen now, and people embracing learning. And this wouldn't be possible, right, without a lot of the great coaches that we've had at Ford. And I know a number of you are out in the audience, kind of, I guess, keeping me honest here in terms of the story. But we got a lot of great coaches, and I do acknowledge, the work they've done. So, big pat on the back for a lot of our coaches and people that have been helping us on the journey.